Today we found a banknote by chance. Here's the banknote. Oh, is it visible? Yes. So this banknote is from the People's Republic of Bulgaria from the 50s. And believe it or not, there is a connection between what you could see on this banknote and the fact that we don't all speak Russian right now in Britain, and the fact that we are not living in a global North Korea. There is a connection between this banknote and the World War III that Stalin prepared, and it never happened, fortunately for all of us. So, first of all, what are the chances that a note will be found, an old note, and there will be somebody who speaks Bulgarian at hand and who will be able to read what's on this banknote? I mean, if you see this in a Hollywood movie, you would say, oh, that's just lazy writing, come on, that's so that the plot may happen. But weirdly, stuff like this happens in real life. And that's not the only example, by the way. A few days ago, I was riding along the Clyde River and I was listening to a lecture on the history of Glasgow. And all of a sudden, the lecturer came to this crane that is still erect by the river, which is a museum piece now. It hasn't been in use for many decades. But guess what? I was passing with my bicycle by this crane. And again, if something like this happens in a Hollywood movie, you would say, oh, come on. What are the chances of that? Anyway, back to the banknote. The banknote, who is on this banknote? Let's see whether the face could be focused in front of the camera. So you see this mustachio guy? Is this the word, mustachio? Mm-hmm. Okay. His name was Georgy Dimitrov. He was a real piece of shit. I mean, he should be next to people like Mengele, because he was a mass murderer. Tens of thousands of Bulgarians were murdered under his rule. He was one of Stalin's henchmen. Stalin had henchmen for all the countries he liberated. So, of course, the chief henchman among the Bulgarians was made the Bulgarian dictator. The chief henchman, Stalin's henchman among the Germans, was made the dictator of the German Democratic Republic, Deutsche Demokratische Republik, and the list goes on and on. If Stalin ever took Britain, as was the plan, of course, there would have been a British comrade who would rule Britain and who would murder hundreds of thousands, probably even millions of British people in order to establish his authority. But this particular dictator, the Bulgarian dictator, is interesting with something else, and here's the connection with World War III. Stalin was warning his associates never to put things to paper. Stalin was extremely secretive. He was very good at keeping secrets secret. However, from time to time, they would do this mistake to write things down. And as it turned out, Georgy Dimitrov, the same guy on the note, wrote something in his diary down that Stalin told them. And here's what Stalin told them. That was shortly before World War II. The war is between two groups of capitalist nations, but we are not against it if they fight a bit and weaken each other. It would be good if Germany could destabilize the positions of the wealthiest capitalist nations, of England especially. By the way, by England, he meant Britain. This is how they refer the Russians. Well, Stalin was not a Russian, but he was the dictator of the Soviet Union. the Russians refer to Britain as England. Of England especially, Hitler, without knowing it, is weakening the foundations of the capitalist system. We, in the meantime, are able to maneuver, to nudge one country on against the other, so that the fight will be more intense. And guess what? Stalin was not just somebody who was wasting his breath. Actually, Stalin was a doer, not a talker.
Vlad, what book were you reading that from?
Well, it has been, these particular words have been published in several books, but this one is When History Had Other Plans. It is, the quote is on page 37. So back to Stalin. Stalin really achieved what he wanted to achieve, and he achieved it so elegantly by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact.
Vlad, why are you looking at the wrong camera? Isn't the camera over there?
This has nothing to do with Stalin or World War II.
Stalin knew how to look at a camera, you don't.
Well, I'm trying to remember whether Stalin looked at the camera, and I'm just remembering some of his speeches. He was looking at the text he was reading from something. He was not looking at the camera, by the way. Well, what it has to do with...
But every video you make, you're always looking to the side. You never look at your viewers. I'm doing it again.
Let's get back to the subject matter of this video, which is not looking at the camera, which is the connection between this note, the guy on the note, and Stalin's plans to take over Western Europe. That almost came to fruition. So how Stalin achieved this, to nudge one country against the other, to get them to fight each other and all that. He achieved it in 1939 via the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. In 1939, Hitler was an idiot who didn't realize where things were going. He thought that he is just reversing the Versailles Treaty, and that's all that's at stake. So Hitler wanted Poland to return Danzig. That was all he wanted, Danzig and the corridor. And Hitler was making these speeches against the Poles, but he was wary of actually invading Poland, and for good reason, because at the time the British government had given a war guarantee to the Polish government, basically saying, Adolf, if you invade Poland, you will have to fight us. And also because the Soviet Union was next door, and Hitler knew what the Soviet Union had done during the Spanish Civil War. So Hitler had no illusions what the Soviet Union can do if he invades Poland. How the Soviet Union can because the Soviet Union is next door. The Soviet Union doesn't have to use ships through the Mediterranean. The Soviet Union could simply pour men and material through the border. Volunteers, and a lot of weaponry. So Hitler was aware that this could lead on a war in two fronts.
Is it on two fronts?
On two fronts, yes.
I'm not sure, I'm just sitting here waiting for my breakfast.
And this is why he didn't invade Poland until Stalin appeared on the scene, offering him the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and the gist of the pact was as follows. Don't worry, Adolf, we are your friends. There will never be a war between our countries. And we have nothing against you invading Poland. In fact, why all you want from the Poles is Danzig. You could have more than that. You could have half of Poland. Half for you, half for me, eh? And they signed on 23rd of August. A week later, Germany invaded Poland as agreed. The agreement was that Germany will invade from the west, the Soviet Union will invade from the east, and they will meet in the middle and divide Poland. So the Germans invaded on 1st of September 1939. The Soviet Union didn't. Surprise. And the Germans began sending telegrams to Moscow. What's going on, guys? We agreed on something. And the Soviet Union was responding, oh, we are not ready yet. You look bored. Is it that boring?
Is that what Stalin said? Did Stalin say to Hitler?
To Georgy
Hey,
Dimitrov.
you look bored.
Stalin and Hitler never met, but Georgy Dimitrov was around Stalin.
Stalin and Hitler never met?
They never met.
Ah, I've never seen photos of them in the same room.
Because
Do you think
there are
it
no
could-
such
Do you
photos.
think it could be the same person with interchangeable moustaches? Maybe there was one person and they masqueraded as
Wow.
Stalin.
Actually, that's not a bad point, because they had so many similarities when you think about it. I mean, first politically, they were both totalitarian leaders. The systems were almost identical in so many respects,
I know how you can tell them apart.
by the shape of the moustache,
By the number of balls.
by the number of balls, yes. Well, this actually saddens me that after this horrible war, which was so devastating and so many people died, World War II, people are interested in trivialities like how many balls Hitler had. This is not what's important about Hitler. The importance of Hitler is his political legacy, what he did as a politician, not his private life and all this, whether he was
Private parts.
private parts for that matter, yes. And the same goes for Churchill, for example. Churchill, to this day, they quote him, oh, he was so clever with words. None of this is important. The important part is the role he played during World War II. He kept Britain into a devastating war that bankrupted Britain. That's what matters when we talk of Churchill. Anyway, so Hitler and Stalin, yeah, they're similar, but I digress here. I was talking about the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. So the Germans kept their end of the bargain. They invaded Poland. The Soviets didn't. And the Soviets waited. And on 3rd of September 1939, Britain and France, as expected, declared war on Germany. But not on the Soviet Union, because it was Germany that invaded Poland, not the Soviet Union. At this point, the Soviet Union had nothing to do with the whole story. Germany invades from the west, the Soviet Union doesn't invade from the east. And remember, this agreement that they must invade simultaneously, that was kept secret. That was not published at the time. The first time it was found, of course, the Soviet Union, until almost the end of its existence, claimed that this is a lie, that no such treaty was ever signed. Secret protocol, they called it. But fortunately for us, the Americans found the German copy in the late 40s, 1940s, and they published it. Anyway, so the Soviet Union invaded 3 weeks later and quietly took its own share. And to this day, people all over the world remember that Hitler had invaded Poland, and not many people remember that the Soviet Union invaded the same Poland in the same month of the same year. I've done this experiment again and again. People don't know that, although it could be read everywhere. It's not some conspiracy theory. And there is even footage how the two armies met in the middle, how they held a joint parade. After all, they were allies at the time. And everything was honky-dory, but while Hitler was already at war with two major powers, potentially with United States, the Soviet Union was somehow peaceful and neutral. Bottom line, Stalin was not just talking the talk, he was walking the walk. He actually achieved exactly what he said he will achieve to Georgy Dimitrov, who was uncareful to, contrary to Stalin's orders, to write this down. And this is the connection between this note that not many people will appreciate. There are so many connections that in our daily life that we don't see.
You turn it around to show the date that says 1951.
Where's the date?
On the other side.
On
under
the other
lady.
side, okay, here's the other side.
If you hold it up a bit higher.
Higher?
I can't see it now. Is it under the, you think under the lady? Yes, I see it now. It's under the lady, the circle she's in.
1951.
Yeah. And if you actually hold it up to daylight, which it might not show, it's got the hammer and sickle.
Yes.
running through
By
it.
the way, there is a story here. What this peasant lady is gathering, this crop, is actually roses. And as a pupil in the People's Republic of Bulgaria, I like everybody else was made to go once a year and pick these roses. We had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning so that we could be in the field in 5 o'clock, because the roses must be picked up early. And these roses are used to extract some essence that is used by the French perfume makers.
Oh.
So this is what's on this note. There are a lot of stories on notes, but people just use the notes and don't realize how much history, how many things are behind those images. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, can we go to the shop now? I want my breakfast.
Okay.